I am NetMoverSitan. Welcome to the Creatures Abnormality Lore section. I'll be splitting it into 2 videos like last time, just to forewarn you about that. Have any of you ever felt insomnia? Well, this one can cure it. It's Void Dream. Now, this might look like an unprocessed Greek meal, and before you say anything, I have a sister who's married to one of Greek descent, so can we move on now? Those below level 2 temperance sleep and never wake up, essentially being dead as far as the facility is concerned. And when breached, the light it generates makes those exposed to its sleep, although the manager can shake them out of it. It also has a short attention span and goes back to the containment unit on its own eventually. Although when attacked, it can become aggressive and inflicts white damage to the department with its roar, which causes panic to those woken up from the sleep that it inflicts. Yeah. I don't think anyone likes to be abruptly woken up. It's a sheep with goat horns and eyes on its body that desires to sleep forever. It can't be used to make employees more resistant to mental damage. It made one employee dream that they were happy to work in the Lobotomy Corporation. And there was someone that wasn't there anymore. That employee wanted to have that dream again. Those that worked on it were driven insane, not by a nightmare, but a dream that made reality seem like a nightmare. Time is not a constant in the dream. A small amount of time in reality can be much longer in the dream. This abnormality has been described as a demon that deceives by changing its form and showing sweet dreams in order to exploit cracks in the mind's defenses, in order to bring about their doom. Although, it might just want to give people happy dreams. That which they want. It's slow, not very durable, and can shoot sparkling balls of light in random directions that make employees sleep. If damage is received, it will turn into a rooster on top with hooved feet on the bottom. Any sleeping employees that it wakes up will be sent into a state of panic, as previously mentioned. If you want something quicker to bore you to sleep, go find a political autobiography and start reading. Anyway, want to see a medical cautionary tale? Well, that's what the Dreaming Current is. This one used to be a human child, quite a young one since they lacked the ability to read, although this wasn't helped by a terminal infection that would give that child 2 years at most to live. And they were researched by their parents. They could walk and make noises, but not talk properly. And they were given grape-flavored candy to allow them to see the ocean. And that child lived much longer than 2 years and could understand others, but was shaky around the lab where they lived and wanted to know what kind of candy they'd get tomorrow. You've got to be kidding. The candy is likely to be some kind of hallucinogenic drug. And also, they were changing into a form that wasn't human. A colourful, air-breathing shark. An example of how abnormalities can change into a form that reflects that which is within. Although, was it the drugs that helped facilitate this? That which was happening anyway? Was it the cause of it? Or was it something to help them hope during their captive existence? Now you see, this is why drugs by themselves aren't the solution. They can sometimes make a problem worse. Anyway, panicking and having too low temperance will result in this abnormality risk breaching, and the liquid that it leaves behind will slow down any employee caught in it. Yeah, it's one of those abnormalities, those that slow them down so they're easier to attack. Oh yes. It has moderate HP, and will start selecting random hallways in the facility, usually one per department/team, to be covered in a rainbow liquid, making any employee on them slower, as previously mentioned. It also decreases their SP over time while recovering HP. At the start of a breach, the dreaming current will stand at the end of one of those hallways, in one of the sides, preparing itself, making splashing sounds for some moments. Afterwards, it will charge at a drastic speed to the opposite end, with its jaw open, leaving a trail of rainbow bubbles and dealing a great amount of red damage to anything in its path. Yeah, now you can see what the slowdown is for. And possibly the damage to SP over time. When reaching the other side of a hallway, the abnormality will teleport to another affected hallway and continue the charge, repeating until they have passed almost all of them and stopping at the end of the last room, standing idle for a time while preparing itself to charge again to the opposite side. Back again through the same hallways. The dreaming current goes through an order of hallways and it will stop charging just in 2 locations, which are 2 selected hallways. The only open chances to suppress this abnormality are when it's idle or when preparing to charge. Yeah, not a lot of windows to attack, is there? Even with certain countermeasures. And I will be covering them eventually. Next we have something deceptive. Something that some might not think much of in terms of threats, but it's certainly dangerous at times. It's a free can of Welch's. 2 crustaceans are next to a vending machine. The work that's chosen is the one that determines the effects. HP, SP, or both. Although that last one can be risky. Although when the result is not good, the drink will kill the one who does so, and they'll be taken away by the crustaceans by a boat. There's one story that includes a male employee signing up with a group that has tons of female employees, each from different departments. They're given cans of Welch's, which they drank. After that, they moved to a van and they took a nap, due to the trip taking an hour. Was it because of some side effect of that drink? Oh, and by the way, red heals HP, white heals SP, and the others heal both when it comes to works. He found himself on a fishing boat with bulky, muscular crew. 10 of them, including the captain, boatswain, and the cook, who laughed at him. Apparently, they were a month from the next port, and they made a deal with his people. He settled into his life, such as it was, by eating seafood soup, then learning how to operate the boats, pull the fish trap up, how to maintain the fishing nets, while preparing food and drink for the crew. After a couple of weeks, and a couple of typhoons, he was convinced that he'd been fired from the Lobotomy Corporation. But he wasn't too concerned, as his life was well enough. And who can blame him? I mean, 2 more weeks and he'll have lived more than most of his former colleagues. Now that's being optimistic. So they clearly did him an unintended favour. Unless, of course, he got nauseous when at sea, so in that case it'd be a different kind of torment, but not as bad. As for the works, red and white, those are the safest, largely because they have a higher chance of success. Well, it's better than that agent dying if the result isn't good enough. Right. What's next? Oh, yes. Next we have the arachnophobe's nightmare. It's the spider bud. Those with a lack of prudence should avoid working on this one. They shall anger her and become food for her young, which will also increase the power gained from it. It guards its domain in darkness, descending down on those that threaten her young. They are then wrapped up in a cocoon to become dinner for her offspring, slowly dying due to her toxin damaging their hearts, which eventually kills them, just not slowly. slow enough to be eaten alive. The separar known as Chesed even told at least one of the employees not to try and retrieve any employees trapped in cocoons, as it increased outputs. And that was against the code of conduct, which are subject to penalties, including dismissal. And by that, he didn't mean they'd just be fired. Oh no. Spider-Bud's special ability triggers when an employee finishes a work and has level 1 prudence, or performs insight work. Because the employee will kill the spiderlings, enraging her. Spider-Bud will then descend from her ceiling and face the employee, capturing them in her web and wrapping them into a cocoon. They will be considered dead at that point. Cocoons boost her success rate, and the more cocoons there are, the more energy will be produced. Yeah, somehow I don't think a dance will be what will happen with this spider. Next we have the Mad Dog Lady's Dream. Popode. It might look like a small cute puppy, but don't let that fool you. If this one breaches, then that agent is weak. Humping legs and urinating on them will be the least of their problems. Let us just say that the song "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window" has an altogether darker tone in parts of Asia, specifically in the culinary field. This dog likes instinct works. Any others risk it breaching. After breaching, it will return to its containment unit, after killing and bringing a body part back. Yeah. Definitely not Mother Hubbard that did that. It makes those that see it feel better, and looks pure with no negative influences, other that it can overwhelm those that look at it for too long. They have lost control in the past due to this. They even had to have a lottery to decide who goes to work on this one because too many volunteered to go. There's a risk of mental regression, which is temporary. When that abnormality was caught chewing a part of a dead employee, it was tranquilized, resulting in a request for demotion of that employee by another due to animal abuse, who also requested a high-class salmon rick with vitamin B snack, due to Popode being shocked by the incident, which was bizarrely accepted, and a request to attach 5 different photos of it. Yeah, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Getting a bad work result. That's not a good thing at the best of times, but once the grip-off counter reaches 0, this abnormality breaches, changing its form, becoming bigger and more hostile. It has decent HP and quick movement speed, and will start to chase employees, giving priority to agents. to attack them in a single slam attack at close range that deals a low amount of red damage in a short area in front of it. It doesn't take long to recover and resumes its attack/chase. And if Popode kills an employee, clerk or agent, it will change back to its previous form and return back to containment on its own, carrying a piece of the employee that it just killed. In that state, it can no longer be attacked. Yeah, cuteness. The strongest armor around. Suppressing it will make the dog whimper and fall down, resulting in a return to containment and resetting the equip-off counter. When transforming, escaping, and returning, a white cloud appears on it, with small pug heads that fade soon after. Yeah, definitely not an ordinary dog. Although it's not off by much, is it? Next we have, as seen in the remake of The Wicker Man, starring Nicolas Cage, it's Queen Bee. A hybrid of a queen bee and a hive with exposed cross-sections that look like sliced meat, with a distorted face, and vestigial wings, and a single functioning eye that scans for intruders, and is immobile. A less than good result results in spores being released within a radius of the containment unit that turn the infected into drones, after the drones slowly devour the hosts alive, that then attack all others within the facility. The spores contain drone eggs, which devour the host's body when hatched, until they burst out of it. The host becomes hungry, just before it forms a cocoon around the host, which moves upwards until the host is killed. Reminds me of a certain science fiction movie horror series involving acid-blooded insectoids, doesn't it? The drones have a limited flight capability and 8 legs. Are you sure they're not arachnids? And appears to use echolocation to navigate, as they don't have eyes or antennae. They also have the intestines of the host it used at the end of its tail. They provide nutrients to the queen, or focus on increasing their numbers. Upon her quiff-off counter being depleted, that's when Queen Bee spreads yellow spores around the department after a short delay, infecting random employees, clerks and agents, inflicting constant red damage for a period of time. Yeah, this is the host being eaten alive. Not a nice thought, is it? That's the idea. Right. If the employee infected with spores dies by the effect of the spores, that's when the drone is born from their corpse. The drones have an average HP and movement speed. They roam the facility, attacking nearby employees, dealing red damage. And if they kill that employee, another drone will be born from their corpse. Yeah. Like many Cases like this, the best way of dealing with this is not to let it happen at all. Make sure that whoever is working on this abnormality has quite high temperance, and, if possible, some gifts that increase the temperance. That way, it maximizes the chance of not getting a less than good result. Oh, and if you think that attention whores are bad, be thankful that they're human and not potential murderers. Why do you say that, you may ask? It's because of Burrowing Heaven, otherwise known as the Notice Me Senpai creature. The reason for this is because it will breach if you're not looking at it. Although the quip-off counter will go up when a good enough result happens when looked at. It will also be more vulnerable to being suppressed when looked at. It's fueled by sight, as in people looking at it. It tolerates blinking, but anything more than a few seconds and it will kill and feast on the dead. Yeah. When the quip-off counter is depleted, the Burrowing Heaven will breach with its wings extended. The abnormality doesn't attack when it's on camera, and only moves when some seconds pass out of camera. If it isn't on camera, it will teleport to a random room with employees in them. Agents taking priority. If it kills employees, it will leave their fruits after screams, where similar entities of itself will hold different parts of that dead employee on their branches. These entities aren't dangerous, and it will usually teleport into the middle of the main rooms and near the sides of the other rooms, like hallways. It will remain breaching until suppressed, or that day ends. Yeah. Quite a different one, isn't that? Where different aspects change depending on a quite specific condition. That condition being whether it's looked at or not. Yeah. If this is combined with another abnormality, and especially under other conditions, this can be pretty dangerous. I'll go on to that much later. Next we have the Naked Nest. No, not that kind of naked. Remember the swarms of Scarab Beetles from The Mummy? No, not the one with Tom Cruise, the one before that. This abnormality is a lot like that, although it's not guaranteed that it will attack those that work on it. It depends on how good results the work has gotten, and how much physical damage they've received. Those that do get infected turn into walking corpses with a dark green face. And no, they don't turn into Shrek. They turn into mini naked nests that can move around. They're also contagious before the transformation is complete. When agitated, the infection accelerates. The brain gets eaten, and the abnormality will be the one in control. Specifically, after it eats the frontal lobe and any other parts of the brain to make up the 30% that it would consume by that point. It enters through any hole in the body, so covering up as much as possible will make it harder for it to enter. Could it be that Yesod was infected by this and his brain was saved before the infection ate it? Unlikely, but it's at least a possibility, isn't it? If it's not purely psychological. Oh, wait. Going a bit ahead of myself. Once infected by the naked nest, they will have small grey or brown circles present on their face. That's the first sign of the infection. After a while, around 9 to 14 seconds, the employee will begin to show other symptoms, namely a green cloud around them and a much slower movement speed. Not as slow as bureaucracy in some places, but still pretty slow. If an infected employee is near another non-infected employee, the infection might spread to them. After presenting symptoms for some time, around 30 to 40 seconds, the employee will transform into a mini naked nest. This can be prevented by killing the employee or passing the day before they start to transform. Between 38 and 53 seconds after being infected. Yeah, quite specific timing there, is there? Okay, not that specific. The transformed employee will have an appearance similar to a humanoid version of the naked nest, and will become uncontrollable, and will discard their weapons and attack employees with their bare hands, inflicting red damage and have a chance of infecting additional employees. Infected employees will not be targets of the transformed ones, and will not be attacked by them. But they will attack the infected ones if they try to suppress them. In case the attacking employee is transformed while being attacked by other transformed employees, they will continue to attack that target for some time until leaving the area. Well, that would make sense, as they wouldn't want to destroy those infected. Right, part 2 is next. Yeah. Can't fit this in all at once. Well, it leaves some suspense. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!